That's right, folks. Episode 11. I have Avon Barter here, my assistant guide in training. Today's episode of Mike's Mail, I'm just going to make this quick and dirty. I'm sorry that it's been so long getting them out, but there's this crazy little thing called work that comes up every once in a while. And even I've got to do it. This episode, I had 2 mails from one guy, right? I know that sounds strange, 2 mails from one guy. Does that sound strange? Hey, before we get started though, you know, I'm meeting a lot of you guys out in the field, you know, out in different crags and stuff like that. So I thought we would introduce Mike Barter's gang sign. And here's the way it's going to work, right? You take your right hand, you go like that, right? Okay, can you do that with me? All of you out in the field, you too? Let's do it. Okay, let's try that again. 1, 2, right. Okay. Now let's get on with this episode of Mike's Mail. First off, somebody was asking me about, you know, how do I feel like slings over my shoulder and then clipping a carabiner to that and then using those as runners. And I realized that a large majority of this audience are sport climbers or people who are just getting introduced to climbing, so this wouldn't make any sense to you at all. Like, what do you mean by having slings over your shoulder? Well, what we call is extendable runners are, you know, we shorten up these runners. Well, here, this is how we shorten the things up. And then to shorten up these, if you want to use them as quick draws, people go gaga over this sometimes, but just take one, goes through, and then grab the 2 loops, clip it. Now you've shortened it up a double length or a single length sling to a point where it's manageable to clip to your harness and use it as a runner. And then when you hook it up that way, when you go to extend it, all you have to do is unclip the carabiner, grab any strand. I'm not even going to look, I'll just grab a strand. Here's one. I'll see whatever goes in there first. You pull it and it extends nicely and it's not wrapped around the carabiner or anything like that. Yeah, it's as simple as that. And then we can carry them as quick draws. And but in a case where, and are used on sort of trad routes, and I want to come back, quote, I hate the word trad routes. It makes it sound like, you know, old people are climbing. But where you're placing a lot of gear, and if you have a lot of gear, that gear is racked with carabiners, like, you know, and if you're using a lot of cams and stuff, you can really end up with an awful lot of carabiners that you don't even use, and all of that can add up. So here's the solution. You know, it's not even just a solution, it's just a method that's being used by a lot of climbers these days. Okay, now the point is here, now I can just take this runner off, clip it in to the, and bang. I have to admit, not doing this a lot, but I do consider it, and quite often I'll end up using the carabiners. I'll take it off one of these double length runners if I have them as quick draws, set up as quick draws, and I'll just throw them over my shoulder if I'm needed a carabiner to build anchors and stuff like that. So I'm well aware that I still have the option of just bang, throwing the runner in there, clipping my rope into that piece of gear and saving myself, you know, whatever. And I have seen some of my friends just, you know, will carry 6 of these runners with just a single carabiner, and they're pretty efficient with it. You always just have to remember, you can't get it caught underneath your packs and stuff like that because they are single length runners. If you put a jacket on and everything, you have to keep adjusting where those runners are so that they're on the top of all your clothing layers or your pack layers and stuff like that, so that you can just whip them off over your shoulder. Alrighty, so yeah, it was a good valid question, and yeah, I'm a fan of them. I do it all the time in one way or another. You can even carry them with the tooth too if you want. But alrighty then, and then of course the second statement, it wasn't a question, it was more of a statement that I guess the person that watched the sliding X video, and you can go to that video. You know, if you don't know what a sliding X, I realize again, the audience here is a lot of sport climbers or people being introduced to climbing. The sliding X is a component of an anchor system or a way to distribute the force of a fall or a load of some kind between two pieces of gear or several pieces of gear, just depending on how it's implemented. But there was a use for it where the guy described how, you know, maybe you got a couple of manky wires or a manky cam and a wire, but you could hook up one of these extendable runners that we just talked about, and bang, there you go. Is if you get two really shallow placed wires, you know, and one piece of gear isn't all that good, and you're kind of worried about it, then you can strengthen it sometimes with the sliding X, or give it the appearance of strength, and maybe that's all you need, by having it share the load between the two wires instead of any one wire having to take all the load itself. And simply by, you know, putting a sliding X in there and then clipping your quick draw in there, both of the nuts are sort of sharing the load at the same time, and maybe it'll be enough to take body weight fall, or a little more than body weight, while you get up a little higher and get a better piece of gear in. So, and once again, you know, it'll share whatever direction that the load's bearing, it'll adjust with the sliding X, it'll adjust for the angle, whatever that may be. So I thought that was a pretty good point, and I have to admit to having done that. Right, so it's actually a very useful technique or system or application that I have to admit I've used quite a few times over my climbing career. What is that on your leg? That's a seal skin, isn't it? Did your mom get that from the Arctic for you this spring? Yes, she did. Anyhow, that's all I've got for you for this episode of Mike's Mail. Hopefully I'll be out here next week, in a week from now, and hasta luego. So have a good time, and we'll talk to you soon. And remember, my life is better than your vacation, and her life is better than your vacation too. Say goodbye.
Bye.